I'll call this regular council meeting of the Village of Grand Manan to order at 7:30 p.m., September the 11th, 2017, at the Grand Manan Community Center. And for prayer, we have Pastor Ruth Fair Parker.
Let's pray. Lord, we just want to thank you this evening for your watch care over us. We thank you for this beautiful island of Grand Manan, and we thank you for the mayor and the council and all the things that they do behind the scenes that we don't even know about. And so we pray that you would bless them abundantly, that you'd give them wisdom and revelation and knowledge, even far beyond their understanding, to cope with all the things. We think of what's happening in Texas and Florida and the eastern seaboard, and we just thank you that you are taking care of us. And so we commit this time to you, and we give you all the praise, for it's in your name we pray. Amen.
Thank you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's hard to believe the summer is going into fall. A lot less daylight. Fall can be a great season, but then comes winter. Grand Manan has a new doctor, Dr. Michael Williams. He came to the island on the 1:30 boat yesterday. I met him this afternoon, and he's home in Castella. And Chubby and Ron and I helped him unpack his furniture and gave him a warm welcome to our island. His suggestion was to me was he planned to stay a lot longer than 2 years. Looking at probably buying a place of his own. He's finding a little bit of problem. Some of us people are still in feet and inches, and he's in centimeters. The other issue that I wanted to bring to people's attention is a letter from Tyrone Parsons, who is an engineer with DTI, and he works on the Grand Manan Transportation Commission. And it says, "Good afternoon, Mayor Green. The Department of Transportation and Infrastructure is working with Silk Stevens Limited to complete a parking study of the Grand Manan North Head Ferry Terminal. The study is being undertaken as there are currently operational challenges in regards to parking at the terminal. The study will provide an overview of the current parking capacity and provide recommendations for current and future parking enhancements. The study will also include an in-depth consultation with ferry stakeholders, including Coastal Transport Limited, Grand Manan Ferry Service clients, and the Grand Manan Ferry Partnership Committee. Could you please provide this information to council and advise them and interested residents if they have some ideas or suggestions about the parking study? Please contact Chrissy Taylor with Silk Stevens Limited Design and Consulting Engineers at 506-755-3005 or email ktaylor@silkstevens.ca. The only other item that I just wanted to mention that our thoughts and prayers are with the people in Florida and the southern United States with Hurricane Irma. It was quite an experience for those people, and the amount of people that's out of their homes and without power is it's unbelievable for us when we live on an island of roughly 2,400 people. So our thoughts and prayers are with those people. And now we will move on to a disclosure of conflict of interest. There's no disclosures. We will move on to the adoption of the minute of August the 14th, 2017, and August the 30th, 2017, special meeting.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion that we accept the minutes as given out.
You heard the motion by Councillor Sturgeon. Do we have a seconder?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Councillor Simmons. Question? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Additions to the agenda. I have some that was passed to me. General Operating Fund, Riki, Arena Lighting, $2,346.54. Fitworks Equipment, new treadmill, $4,105.50. Park Place Carpentry, scissor lift rental, $1,840.
I'd move to add the above mentioned invoices to the agenda.
You heard the motion by Councillor Morse. Do we have a seconder?
Second.
Seconded by Councillor Cheney. Question? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Number 7 on the agenda is the RCMP report with Constable Bryant.
Good evening. This is the report for the month of August 2017. There were 21 calls relating to criminal code offenses, 2 for assault, 2 for criminal harassment, 1 being unlawfully in a dwelling house, 1 for theft, 7 relating to mischief and obstruction, 1 for driving while prohibited, 1 for uttering threats, 1 for identity theft, 1 for failing to comply or breach, 1 for fraud, and 1 for fraud over $5,000. Federal statutes, there were 2 occurrences, 1 relating to Controlled Drugs and Substance Act, and another for production of Schedule 2. There were 31 other occurrences, 4 relating to false alarms, 1 for assistance to general public, 1 for another assistance to another agency, 2 animal calls, 2 firearms related acts, 1 liquor control act, 1 for child welfare, 2 for missing persons, 2 for mental health, 2 for suspicious persons or vehicles, 1 for municipal bylaw, and 1 for fire prevention act. Relating to provincial statutes, there were 28 documented occurrences or offenses, 3 check stops, 22 motor vehicle act tickets or warnings, 1 relating to another non-moving traffic offense, 1 motor vehicle accident with injury, 3 traffic collisions with damage over $1,000, 4 traffic collisions with damage under $1,000. That's in the summary.
Any questions for Constable Bryant?
Just a clarification. Under the federal statutes,
Yeah.
I see trafficking 1, production 2,
Yeah.
possession 8. And I don't know what all those.
So I guess they would be for, there's a long list or schedule of specific drugs
Okay.
that are under them. So marijuana would be under 1 type of schedule, and then so production schedule 2, I believe, is for, could be marijuana, it might be some other ones, I'm not sure exactly, so.
And then as it goes up to 8, I suppose it gets into fentanyl.
Yes and no, I'm not exactly sure because there's hundreds of them and they're in different classifications. Some of them, 1 could be marijuana, and then there's another one, I believe, it's Schedule 7, which is for 30 grams or less, so they sort of, it depends how they came in order. It's something I could maybe request for someone to put it in brackets, what
Yeah. I
then
should drop by and maybe get probably a card at the end of it.
several pages.
Oh, okay. I get the picture.
50-page book, Councillor.
Yeah. Don't be.
Any other questions for Constable Bryant?
I'd just like to ask about the impaired driving. Is that really what's going on? I mean, it's great that it's 0, but it seems to be awful low all summer. Is this, you guys are, is there an emphasis on this at any time during the, like?
There are, we do get some numerous calls regarding potential impaired drivers, and I received one just the other day, and we went looking for the vehicle, and by the time we get the information, that vehicle's no longer there, or the guy's not driving anymore.
Right.
As far as pulling people over and seeing impaired driving, when we hear from someone that they think someone's swerving over the road, we recommend that, it's a 911 call and we'll respond to it. We're out on the road a lot, you guys see us, and if we see someone swerving, we'll pull them over, but when we're out on the road, they're not necessarily there, or we're not seeing that type of driving behavior that's required for us to pull them over.
Right.
It's something that, we're always aware of and trying to find. I don't know.
No, it was a lot different when I was younger and stuff.
Yeah.
But it just seemed, all summer it's been quite low, and that's a good thing.
Yeah.
As long as it's, what's going on.
As far as I know as well, I guess, I don't know if we've had any traffic collisions with impaired driving as well. That would be a good, if we're getting numerous traffic collisions and we're finding people that are impaired, that's sort of a scary situation, but to my knowledge, that hasn't really happened this summer.
But the difference is, Councillor Fitzsimmons, when you're driving along and you see somebody you think that may be impaired, the time the police car comes along, this guy's all straightened up. He can pick that thing up 3 miles away, and he only has to be good till they get by.
Yeah. No, that's great if it's,
Thank you.
what's going on.
Under 8 is old business, building inspector information. Council CAA Rob McPherson to report on his research.
I was instructed to research on building inspector, what's entailed to appoint one, and seemed like it's a very, very simple exercise. All they would have to do is find out the department that regulates them and talk somebody in there. I defy you right now to find out where that department is. I've talked to several different people, and they do a little bit, fire commissioner's office, but they're only if it's only 50 occupants in the residence and commercial. And one of the questions I was looking for was what qualifications do you have to be a building inspector? Found out today that if the town council wants to appoint anybody in the community or in the office as being a building inspector with no qualifications, the motion is passed, and that's what happens. There is no qualifications in that definition. I did find today, late today, Dan Harrington. He is with the Lawrence Station and the Regional Service Commission. He runs the landfill there, but his training is planning. And on his staff, they have a building inspector. Talking with him, he said in Charlotte County, St. Andrews, I believe they go to engineering outfit in St. John. McAdam looks after Vern Faulkner, who is freelance. Manser out of Beaver Harbor looks after St. Stephen, I believe, and Blacks Harbor. And there's been no one-stop shopping. The regional commission wants to get in on it. Dan wants to come down and meet within the next couple of weeks to go over what we really need, or maybe we don't need. He went over our bylaw and he endorsed that pretty well. He said when anybody takes out a permit, then you have to adhere to the Canada Building Code, and they said that's what you want. That's right in the permit. And again, that's being revised all the time, and the bylaw could be updated to reflect that. I talked to only one of the contractors from where they're sitting. How long would they have to wait to get an inspection? On Grand Manan, getting materials can be a problem. And so if you're doing one thing in the construction, you could go to the other and go right on. But if you need an inspection here and there, to go with the other one, and it comes from the mainland, it ties everything up. Or the construction. It's not a simple thing. Council would have to work or decide where do you need a permit for. If it's renovations, just exactly if it's changing the window, or if you're going to take a side of the building, or whatever, there should be some stipulation on that. Macadam, I talked to Arsenault and Macadam. Vern's been there for a few months. It's working very well there, but he lives right there in the area. How much it costs, I don't know. Vern suggesting that he would be $25 an hour, but to pay that from Black's Arbor to go back to Black's Arbor, that type of thing. I think after we get a meeting with Dan, we'd have a better idea of which way to, or I could advise you which way to go. It's Grand Manan, just because it's being Grand Manan is complicating things. And some of the standards here for wind and that type of thing, some of the contracts, and this place is being built, there was snow loads and wind in the contract. They had to be met. Same thing with the nursing home. I don't know whether that's how far you go into this building instruction or inspection, or just what. So from the contractors, again, it's the cost and shut down, and of course the cost is going to be going to go to the customer type of thing. Dan did not know that, or didn't realize that on Grand Manan that we're about 2 years before you can get in the line to get residential things done, or new construction, and the renovation things. He says, yeah, that's a lot of chance, or a lot of thought has to be going into revising that type of thing. So not a whole bunch, other than it's a big exercise.
So we'll find out a lot more probably when Mr. Hannon comes down.
Yeah, well, Dan, yeah, he can talk the language, and they have a three level building inspector at regional at the commission, and he's going to come with them.
Okay. One question I would have is that anybody that works for the village, okay, has liability insurance, per se, as I understand.
Yeah.
And same as all of us who sit on council and such like that. So if we hired our own building inspector, I would assume that
You would have to have.
covered.
Yeah.
But if we're hiring out, or if we're sharing one within the region or such like that, how would that work, I guess?
That would be a question to ask Dan.
Okay.
Necessarily,
Okay.
yeah.
Anyway,
See, the LSDs don't do they're, no, they don't have any.
No, of course.
They just let it go and,
So the way things currently are, when they take out a permit, they're automatically committing to following the Canadian building standards.
Yeah.
What recourse would the customer have if it were found that something was not done to those standards, do you know?
they probably have to sue the contractor.
I'm
And
just
then
wondering
it-
how much leverage they would have or whatever, if that were the case.
Yeah. Well, that's, you know, this is a contract, and I'm going to do this type of thing, so they have to do it.
Any other questions?
What's the time frame for Dan coming down?
Within 2 weeks is Man's Way this week.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other questions? We need a motion for Dan.
I'll make a motion that Dan Harrington comes down and meets with council.
You heard the motion by Councilor Sturgeon. Do we have a seconder?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Deputy Mayor Moses. Question? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. B2, information on direct deposit for payroll items.
So I got some information on the direct deposit for pricing. It would be, we get charged every month for a fee for Scotia Connect to go on to our online banking. And that's about $25, and that would be no more. It costs $1 every time you do a transaction through direct deposit. But you're saving like a check and ink, like, and every time you cash a check, it costs $1, and you have to buy the checks. It would be no more expensive. I've talked to other municipalities that do it. St. Stephen, I've talked to St. Andrews and Hanwell, they all do it. I talked to our accountants because we need 2 signatures to pay a bill. So we're not looking to pay daily bills through direct deposit, just our payroll. And our accountant with Beers Neal, her name is Amy, and she said that would be up to you guys because we do require 2 signatures, but all of our salaries are pre-approved, like in the budgets. So we wouldn't be paying anything other than that. Like, we're not looking to do anything other than just payroll. So like you would know, like every week, you know, we can show you everything. I guess it's kind of, I talked to our kids, it's an administrative decision, really, but we thought we'd bring it to council just because we're not trying to hide, you know. They said it is no more expensive, it's not a whole lot cheaper, it's not hard to do, and other municipalities do it, and we would like to do it, but I guess it's up to you guys.
The question I have is, does it necessarily have to be a checking account or it can be any banking account?
It can be, I've done it, and you just indicate on your form whether it's checking or savings or whatever, but you don't need like a void check for it.
That's my concern.
No, you just fill out a form. Scotiabank has forms.
Okay.
Oh, you mean for you?
Yes, yes, I
Oh,
mean,
yes, no, you
yes.
just would need your banking information.
Yeah, that's it.
You keep that all.
You don't need a void check, like she mentioned, that's what.
Oh, I thought you meant us.
All right.
Would it be an all or nothing? I know when other companies started this, there were some people that said, no, I don't want to do that, I want my check in my hand.
I mean, we probably could do both. I would prefer not to, but I mean, if you wanted to give me a hard time, I guess I would work with you. I mean, it's up to you guys, you know, like if no one's here, you know, it's up to you, like we would like to, it's not necessary, but we're just asking if we can. It's not gonna cost any more money.
I'd like to know what's going on. If I'm not signing the checks, I don't know.
That's why we're here.
Actually, I can see it's not that I can see the mayor's point.
I can see what he
because
does.
he is the one who's in
He
the end
looks over every
responsible for
Yep.
what goes in.
But that's why we don't want to
so.
pay daily bills, we just want to do our regular, it's the same every week, you know? Then every 3 months we'll pay you guys, in the summer it's our summer students, we can print reports,
What
we can.
about, like, for example, travel expenses?
No, not daily, not anything,
Okay.
just payroll,
Okay.
just our paychecks.
Just payroll, okay.
Just
gotcha.
payroll.
All right.
But you could print out a report of all the payroll for the week and have it for the mayor to
Totally.
review each
Yeah.
time he's in to
Yeah,
sign
that
Yeah,
would
but the
checks.
checks is already gone. I question checks. Is this right? We just had one and it was a misunderstanding between,
That was a daily expense, that wasn't a payroll. Talking about the doctor.
And this is what I wanted to let
Yeah,
you.
and we don't have to, like, we would like to, but it's not
Okay.
a deal breaker. We're just asking if we can.
So it's just payroll.
Just for paychecks, not for daily expenses, just our salaries, you guys every 3 months, and summer students, that's it. No contract payments, nothing, just payroll.
How do you sit on that, Mr. Mayor? That can't change too much.
And I asked our accountants, because like, we do need the 2 signatures, and I said, like, everything over $1,500, she said, but it's just salaries, you're all pre-approved in the yearly budget, that'll be the same every week, you know? But it would be nice, but I don't think we're gonna get upset if we can't, but we'd like to. So that's all,
Okay, I'll make a motion to table this.
okay?
Then
heard the
we-
motion by Councillor Sturgeon to table this to any time frame?
Next month.
Next month? Do we
I
have a
think that's
second?
wise, I'll go along with that. And patch that over.
Motion by Councillor Sturgeon is to table, seconded by Councillor Cheney. All those in favor? Opposed?
Nay.
Motion carried. 10-minute open session. This is a time for people to get up and voice their concerns on any issue.
Good evening, everyone. I know most of the people in this room have worked with them or worked for them at one point in time. We came tonight to voice our support for there being a building inspector on the island. I think there's a lot of misconception because there never has been one here before. We've dealt with several in several different towns, cities, municipalities, and even in rural planning areas. Grand Manan is a little bit unique that it falls into a legislative crack. Basically, because you're a municipality, you don't have to follow any of the unincorporated rules that rural planning places have to, that people out in non-city areas or non-municipalities have to. You have adopted a building bylaw that has been vested and is approved by the Community Planning Act in the province of New Brunswick. That Community Planning Act is basically what stipulates what is supposed to happen in most jurisdictions if there is an unincorporated place. Because Grand Manan is incorporated, the Community Planning Act basically vests all of the power to council to make the bylaws to say when there's a building permit issued, what that building permit is for, what inspections have to be done, whether there's 3 or 2 or 1, who does the inspection, who enforces the fact that a contractor has to take out that building permit or a homeowner has to take out the building permit and then abide by the code. If there's no one checking to make sure that the building code is not being upheld, then there is no reason for the permit other than to protect your zoning bylaws, to make sure that people don't build on other people's properties. We've seen several instances over the last 3 years of doing work in residential properties here of buildings under 10 years old, which had there been a inspection process that had to be adhered to by the building permit holder, the damage to the property would not have happened. We really strongly believe that having a building inspector on the island will change the way that buildings are built here. We don't think that you need to go all gung-ho 2 feet in and make everybody do it for every little thing like they do in some places. I do know in the city of Fredericton, you're supposed to pull a permit for anything over $1,500. I think for Grand Manan, a good starting point would be new home construction. or possibly new home construction and building additions that are in excess of 500 square feet. I think that the contractors and the people that are doing work on this island need to be upheld to the building code standard, because the code, it provides safety. It provides a standard for building envelopes to not rot in a 10-year period. And the code, as of 2015, has made significant changes in those areas. The other thing that I would like to make council aware of, which I asked Kirk the question before the meeting, right now within the bylaws, you have adopted the 1995 National Building Code. As a council, you have to amend that building code to be at least up to the 2010. Since 1995, there's been 3 building codes issued by the National Building Code Council, and we need to have that updated within the bylaws so that if there is an inspector implemented on the island, that we at least have a minimum standard of the 2010 code. The 2015 code comes into place in many areas. Yeah, there's a significant cost with that code because there's a lot of extra building practices and materials that have to happen above and beyond what is currently being done. But I do believe that the people in Grand Manan who are putting money out there, good money, to build houses, that they should have the protection that they think they're getting from a building permit by having a proper building inspector. Thank you.
That's one of the reasons that we're going into this, is because of the reports that come into us on houses that's 8 and 10 years old, that's rotten, $70,000, $50,000 for repairs. This is the reason that it came to our attention, is because of this, and we decided that we would move on and look into what we have to do if we want a building inspector. And Rob is doing some research, and I've talked around, and what most people have told me, adopt the National Building Code.
Yeah, it is not, it does not necessarily follow that because we have a 2015 code that an inspector on Grand Manan has to uphold that code. Council has to adopt it into the building bylaw to amend the second line of the code to say 2010, 2015. We don't believe at this point that the 2015 code, we're sort of struggling with all the changes that have been made in the code to this point. 2010 is a good starting point, but in the coming years, there is definitely going to be a huge learning curve for other people on this island who do not have to even adhere to the 95 code right now. And that is going to put some people in a bad place. We don't want to see that happen. We want to see this process happen gradually, and we don't want anybody to sort of get shell-shocked or be put out of business or any of that. But we do strongly support the idea, and we welcome anyone from council to ask us questions about our past experiences with inspectors and the process. We're here to support it and help as best we can.
I've gone further than I was supposed to. I'm not supposed to say anything on the 10 minutes.
You got a lot.
Is there any other questions?
Thank you. Now we have on the Rural Links, Stan Choptiani going to speak on this. He is a former mayor of St. Stephen and St. Andrews, and he done one term and had enough of it, I guess.
I do have these slides, and I hope it's all right if I just speak from here.
Sure.
Thank you, Mayor Green. Council, it's a pleasure to be able to present to you. We're excited that the bus will be running, and that we will be able to provide service to Grand Manan. For us, and I apologize to those maybe behind who can't see all that well, we're looking at a continuous connection from the ferry to when you get off the ferry. We'll be able to pick you up, take you to the main bus, so there'll be a shuttle bus to take you up to Penfield, and from Penfield you'll be able to get to St. John and the services that are in St. John. I need to go back a little bit and indicate what our background is, because we've got a couple of groups here. I'll come back to this. This is the schedule, so you'll get some sense. Rural Links was a group of people who were keenly aware that we needed transportation in Charlotte County. And as more and more of the services got moved to St. John, the need for those connections to St. John became more and more clear. We've been working together for almost 5 years. When I say we, it's really representatives from each of the communities in Charlotte County. So your Deputy Mayor, Rob Moses, has been fantastic as a member of our board, but we have other either councillors or mayors in the other municipalities as well. On top of that, we have people from social services, from the Regional Service Commission, from the Multicultural Society. There's some members at large who are just interested citizens. And we formed, incorporated as Rural Links 2 years ago as a not-for-profit, with the concept that we would be able to lobby government more easily. That has happened. I think we were sort of, we just kept at it until they realized we're not going to go away. And then they also began to realize that the need was there, and they needed to take that responsibility to meet the need. This past April, Rural Links contracted with Maritime Bus to provide the service, because Rural Links is a group of volunteers. It's either retired or semi-retired people, or people from the different municipalities. We don't know how to run a bus or a bus company, but Maritime Bus did respond, and they have a wonderful track record. So we entered into an agreement with them to provide service. So at this stage, and I apologize that this is not the greatest focus here, but you also have this in front of you. Our concept is here for Grand Manan to be able to offer you, at this point, 4 days a week service, Monday to Thursday, where it's a direct service. So at roughly 10 after 9, we'll be there to meet the incoming ferry at Blacks Harbor. We will take you to the Penfield Irving, where the main bus that's starting in St. Stephen, and which then goes to St. Andrews, St. George, and is on its way to St. John. It will stop and wait for Grand Manan residents as well as Blacks Harbor residents and residents from this area. We'll get to St. John roughly by 10:15. We're going first to the Maritime Bus Terminal because there's connections to Moncton at 10:30. And if you stay on the same bus, that bus eventually goes to Fredericton. So you'll have double connections into the province. After we go to the Maritime Bus, then we're going up the hill to St. Joe's, to the hospital, then around to the courts, and then out to the regional hospital. We have people with Horizon Health who are going to work to try to help coordinate appointment times. So if we know that there's someone from Grand Manan who's got a doctor's appointment, don't give that person a doctor's appointment at 9:30. Do it at 10:45 so that they can tie into what the needs are. So we're looking at ways to also work with the courts, and I think you've already made inroads that way, that court dates times don't start until close to 11 o'clock, because that's when we can get you to the courthouse. That bus, as I mentioned, it stops being a Rural Links bus when it leaves the regional, and then it sort of takes down a sign and puts Maritime Bus up, and it goes on to Fredericton, gets there about noon, waits an hour, and comes back, and then it starts our return run. So about 3:45, we pick up at the main hospital, then we go to the courts, then St. Joe's, the terminal, and then we start back here in order to get you to the 5:30 ferry. And the process at this time will be an on-demand ticket service. So you will need to, we'll work through with you. Robert's been working on this behind the scenes, but we'll be able to work with you with the website. We've also just hired a person who can help with the ticketing, but we'll be asking for people to buy the ticket a day ahead. That way we will know, do we really need to come to Grand Manan? If there's nobody going to be on the bus, or pardon me, on the ferry to get to the bus, then we won't need the shuttle or won't need the return. So we're looking at an on-demand service. It will be a shuttle bus that works there, as I say, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, we don't have that shuttle service available for you. But we are trying, as I'll show in another slide, to work with Dial-A-Ride to be able to work to get the Dial-A-Ride to pick up people who still want to get to St. John on Friday or the weekend. So this is also, it's not in stone yet. We're going to try things out, and if the demand is high here, then we'll make sure that the service meets demand. In terms of costs, at this stage, and these costs, I must say, are set by the government through the Energies and Utilities Board. I can tell you, I've learned a lot about buses and things in this last few years, but they do set the fares, and we have some ability to alter the fares. So a one-way fare for an adult is $26 from the ferry to St. John. If you're doing a return trip, it's $44 if it's not the same. However, a regular return trip is $34 for a person who wants to go there and come back on the same day. So that's the price that you're looking at. If you're my age, it's a whole lot better. Or if you're a student, because a return trip, the same travel, is a little less than $30. We are also looking into trying to find a way to do multiple tickets or even a monthly pass. So if we do get someone who wants to do this on a regular basis, we're going to be looking at ways to bring that cost down. So for instance, we've worked a deal for students who are wanting to go to MBCC from St. Stephen to St. Andrews, and we've got that price down to less than $10 return. So there may be ways to do it. We're also going to be working with Horizon Health or with Charlotte Cancer and other groups of people who, if there is a specific need, for instance, if you've got cancer treatment for 30 days in a row, we're going to work it out so that we can make it possible for that bus to provide the service. It'll take us some time and it'll take us some negotiations, but we're pretty confident that our focus is people-based and people need-based. And that's been an interesting process too, because with Maritime Bus, they don't care who your mother is or where it hurts when you get on the bus. But I can tell you that when I talk to people in the street, they tell me all this stuff. And it's, in many ways, it's heartwarming because the need is there. I mentioned Dial-A-Ride, and we're working with them because right now they're the ones who are picking up the slack. They're doing 3 or 4 runs a day to St. Stephen to St. John, and it's not an efficient system. And this will be able to maximize their use of volunteers. So we're working closely with those people to either bring people to the bus or from the bus bringing them home. So we expect them to work in this area in a way to build volunteers. I just want to go through the money piece because the money is sort of a little bit ambiguous. I mentioned that Rural Links is a not-for-profit. The government in the announcement gave us, theoretically, $500,000, and they also wanted my banking information, and I was thinking, how far can my wife and I get on $500,000 before they caught us? But then they were a little smarter than that, and they said, well, no, we're going to flow this money through pretty well directly to the bus company. So Rural Links, or the name of our not-for-profit, is the Southwest New Brunswick Transit Authority, Inc. We have no funding for all the things that we're trying to do. To run the bus for 2 years is about $1 million and 130,000. Maritime Bus, even though we're getting 500,000, Maritime Bus has to come up with the rest. And they're hoping to be able to do that through parcel service and through revenues. So they're wanting to hope to build the ridership to about 75 people a day, which I think is optimistic, but we think it's possible in 2 years. So we've got to build up to that. But the government has told us, you as Rural Links have got to do a whole long list of things. However, we're not giving you any money. So we've had to fundraise ourselves. We have to provide all the financial oversight for that $500,000. We have to do quarter reporting. Who's taking the bus? What kinds of people? How is it saving the government money? So for instance, we found examples of where they had taken people from St. Stephen for orthotics into Fredericton, and they were charged a $300 taxi bill. We think we can do that for $40. So the government savings in those areas, I think, could be substantial. And we have to be able to show exactly how we save money and do the reporting that way. The government is expecting us to work with all the different departments, health, social development. There's with the courts another group to make sure that we're able to coordinate the ticketing with that. The government is also expecting, and I think we will work hard to look at the job situation. So can we bring more people either into Charlotte County, or can we find jobs for people who are already in Charlotte County? There's a whole list, as I've indicated, in this that we're required to do. We have to do all the publicity, the service launch, which we are looking at a soft start in 2 weeks. September 25th, Monday, is when we expect to have our first bus running. So buy your tickets soon. We will be hiring a person, or actually we have hired a person, who will be doing a lot of this work for us. We think that in order for Rural Links to operate, we need about $60,000, and we have to fundraise that ourselves. Now, it's a reasonably good story in that we've got money from the Economic and Social Inclusion Network. We have $10,000 from United Way. We did get funding from Regional Development Corporation, although there's so many strings attached on that one. I'm not sure how we need to work. But we're asking each of the municipalities if they could help us operate for this 2-year pilot project. So we are asking, and we've gotten reasonable responses from the other municipalities because we presented to them. We need support to operate, and it's a 2-year period. We need to have insurance, we have expenses, we've got legal costs, we have meetings. But the key difference here is that we're a personal service. So with our hire, his name's Hollis Bartlett, or our board, we will have direct input. So if you have a need or someone in need, you can talk to a real person and get a response on how we can support your residents in Grand Manan. So if you tell us that things don't work in terms of pickup or times, we'll work to accommodate. Or if you need special service for the groups of people, we'll work on that. But it's having that personal involvement that I think sets this apart. We're not just a bus service, and that's been a learning curve for Maritime Bus. As I said before, they're just used to moving people. What we're asking is from the municipalities is that we look sort of at your population. We're asking for about a $1 to $3 per person top up for us. Some municipalities are doing substantially more. Some are, most are at the $2 to $3. But from Grand Manan, I think we're asking for around $3,000 as a way of supporting us, which works out to about $1.25 a resident, somewhere in that range. So that's an ask. It's a way of supporting us. We're going to run the service anyway. If you help us, that makes a big difference. But regardless, the bus will be there for you in 2 weeks, and hopefully forever after that. We're pretty confident of where we're going and how we're going. So that's it in a nutshell. Happy to take questions, and I certainly appreciate the time.
Any questions? Very good, you're gonna be lucky, Stan.
Will you be able to provide us with a breakdown, like by the, I'm just thinking for budgeting purposes for next year? I know you're just starting September 25th, but I'm wondering even if as we go into budget time in December, if we'd have some idea of how much uptake there is from Grand Manan residents?
Oh, absolutely. So we're required to report to the government every 4 months, or every 3 months, I should say, quarterly. So we will have statistics, and because it's an on-demand system, we will know, we don't know who buys the ticket, but we will know that there'll be a ticket bought, and we'll be able to know exactly how many people are using it, and probably we'll know roughly why they're there. So if they're getting off at the regional, we'll assume that that's a medical appointment. You know, so we can do pretty good demographics and statistics for that, and we will. There's 2 ways for it. Deputy Mayor Moses will have that information. He sits on the provincial committee too, so he'll have that directly. But we also realize that we have a responsibility to councils and to the municipalities to show them very much how their support is being used, and to make it realistic. I mean, I've sat in the tables before, so you want that oversight, and you want that knowledge that if you are supporting, you're getting something for the support. So that's a given from what where we are.
Mr. Mayor, I have a question. You say it's an on-demand service, but yet I don't see a phone number that a person can call come September the 25th. So
Probably by Thursday.
okay, you'll have a number by Thursday?
I'm expecting.
Okay, so you'll let our CAO know then, basically?
Either Deputy Mayor or I will, but yeah.
Yeah, okay.
We're just at the stage. It's been an interesting dance, I can tell you. I met with Premier today, Glant, and he's all excited and telling us, because we're ready to go on 2 weeks today. He's saying, well, the official launch, we'll discuss things when we want it officially, and until then, take this as a soft opening. And there's different agendas. We've just come through the Energy and Utilities Board, who set the fares, and who is just going to give us our final approval again this week. So lots of details, but as soon as we have all the details in a way that we're confident, we're doing a mass publication and promotional situation, so that the times, the costs, the places to pick up, all of that will be well publicized. So yeah, it's a bit of a rush,
Right.
but at least we know that we've got a date that we're working towards.
Any other questions? Thank you, Stan, for the presentation.
It's appreciated.
Everybody away.
That wasn't good. I'm not growling at you now. You say it. Our next is under new business is the federal taxation concerns with the newly proposed federal tax on small corporations and its effect on recruitment for doctors. Councilor Sturgeon.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. To be honest with you, I'm not an accountant or anything in this regard, so I don't know the technicalities, but I do know from what I'm hearing on the news, that there is a great concern about the proposed new tax, federal tax changes, that it could severely affect recruitment for doctors, and particularly for rural areas. Mr. Mayor, as you already pointed out, we've already been fortunate enough to get a new doctors of today, and because of those efforts from Councillor Turner and the village and yourself, Mr. Mayor, that we've been fortunate. But I wouldn't want to have that endanger our recruitment efforts in the future, so I'd just like to have that for a matter of discussion on the council tonight.
Don't you think it would be a good idea with the Union and Brunswick Municipalities meeting coming up, that this is put on their agenda?
Actually, Mr. Mayor, I was talking to the president who's the mayor of Doak County, of Gaston, about that very suggestion. As you know, Mr. Mayor, our executive director passed away suddenly, so we're in the hiring process right now, and the president and I were talking the other day, and he said this has got to be something that's got to be put on as quickly as possible, because it is going to be affecting most of our municipalities, because as you know, Mr. Mayor, most of the municipalities in Canada, 85% of them are less than 5,000 people, so it's affected more than Grand Manan. It's affecting, basically just about every municipality there is, really. So yes, it will be. It's going to be a matter for the Union municipalities for sure.
It is an issue for like doctors in general in Canada. We're somewhat fortunate in that because our doctors work within like a government-funded facility and government equipment. Most of them don't incorporate when they're in that situation, because they usually incorporate so that expenses can be covered, or if they have employees, they can do what they call income sprinkling, which means they can hire family members, but our doctors can't do that. So there is a risk for loss of doctors in general in Canada, but specifically for Grand Manan, it is actually less than it would be for like areas that have doctors that have their own clinics, things like that. They're the ones that really are into the incorporating because they want to load up the money in their corporation. Our doctors don't have that opportunity. They don't pay their expenses. They don't invest in their business as such. It can impact dentists. It can impact actually quite a few other areas that would be valid here. The doctors, were just kind of lucky that it's not as bad as it might be. But yeah, as far as doctors actually leaving Canada, that can affect all of us.
Any other comments?
Does anybody know where a member of Parliament actually stands on this? For it, against it? Has it ever been mentioned?
Well, if it's a government thing, we know where she stands on it.
Well, but it's never been mentioned of,
Haven't seen any tweets on it, and you usually see tweets from her on most issues.
I think it would be a good start for a motion from council to have somebody take it to Union and Brunswick municipalities. And that group of people has a lot more say than we do, if that's council's wish. But I'm like Councillor Sturgeon and like Councillor Turner, even though, our doctors are under a different umbrella, it does affect other doctors that we use.
It affects the pool per se.
Yeah.
Especially specialists, they're very big in corporations.
Well, Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion that, as council's representative to the Union municipalities in Brunswick, that I'll bring forward to Union municipalities in Brunswick, and that we pursue this matter.
You heard the motion by Councillor Sturgeon. Do we have a seconder?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Deputy Mayor Moses. Question? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Committee reports. Recreation Director Chris Reiner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just getting around to wrapping up the summer, although with temperatures like we had today, it's kind of hard to believe the summer's over. But just to kind of summarize on some of the things from this past summer, one of the new ones was the soccer program. It was a great first season with roughly 70 kids ages 4 to 14 that took part 2 days a week. Through some funding, we were able to buy some brand new equipment for that program that we should be able to have for years to come, as well as through registration fees, we're able to get the kids nice little uniforms for keepsakes. Just like to take the time to thank Kendra Wilson for running that program for us, for the kids. It was a great addition to the summer. Also, the baseball. This year, we've certainly seen an increase in the usage at the ball field at Grand Harbor. The summer league that the kids play in here locally, I think there was roughly 45 to 50 players that were involved in that 2 days a week. Also, we had a great number of kids in the T-ball, roughly 25 to 30, that took place 1 day a week. And also this year, we had a U11 and a U13 team that represented Grand Manan at provincials, which was great to see. But with all these different age groups, it certainly made it a bit of a juggle to try to keep track of who was doing what, because with each age group we have different field dimensions to do with the distance of the bases, the distance from the pitcher's mound to home plate, etc. It certainly makes it a bit of a game with using the one ball diamond. So looking ahead to next year, we certainly could see the need to try to resurrect a second ball diamond. Castalia would be a great location, but financially wise, Castalia's got a lot of work ahead of it. North Head being probably the easiest addition to that, with a little bit of TLC. That would probably be something we could have ready without too much work. Looking for next year. Playgrounds are pretty much status quo, with not a lot of stuff done other than just the general maintenance. Basically, there's a substantial amount of investment needed for the playgrounds around our community to bring them up to par. Another year at the pool has come and gone. I can say that we survived the 8 weeks. The bathroom upgrades this year was a positive improvement. A lot of people commented on that. Looking forward to next year, we have 2 big issues that we're looking at. One is towards the end of this season, we had a substantial water leak. We don't know what it was, but most of the summer we were able to get by with adding additional water every other day. At one point in the last 2 weeks, we went from adding it every other day to adding it every day, running it twice as long. So that's a concern. We don't know if it's structural in the cement, the crack, or if it's something to do with the perimeter piping. The second big issue we're going to have next year is this 40-page report that was just issued by the New Brunswick Public Pool Safety Standard, which basically says that we no longer meet minimum standards. If this was June of 2018 I was standing here, we would not be able to operate the pool under certain conditions. As of right now, the minimum standards for a lifeguard starting next year is national certifications, which we have none. All of our lifeguards with the certifications that they have now are considered assistant lifeguards. And you need 1 national lifeguard certified staff for every 2 assistants. So we will work on that over the winter. There are courses available if we can find the willing people to go take them. It might be something that we may need to look at in the budget for next year for training, as well as sending these people for 2 or 3 days to see the St. Stephen and St. John to get the stuff that we need. The public EpiPen program. Sounds like a broken record, I think. But today I actually delivered the last pen to get the program up and running. Due to a backlog at the manufacturer for the pens, it took longer than we anticipated to get those. But I am pleased to say that we now have 6 locations on Grand Manan stocked with both an adult and a junior dose of epinephrine. Most of you know those locations are the Anchorage Provincial Park, the swimming pool, the community school, here at the community center, the business center, as well as of today, the Grand Manan 5. I have 2 pens left in my office that are destined for the adventure when it comes back in 4 to 6 weeks. I think that's what they said. But, it has a little joke about it. The last thing on my list is the arena. With summer being over, hockey time is here. It took it a little bit to get the arena up and going this year. We had Charlotte County Refrigeration in last week to go over everything to assist with the startup. We turned the machine on last Friday, roughly 10 o'clock, with an indoor temperature of about 19 degrees. And when I went in and checked this morning at 8:30, it was -5. So that was not only a great addition to the season, but with the 23-degree weather today, it was nice for air conditioning. As you've seen in the CAO's report, we now have brand new lighting in the arena. And I may be a bit biased when I say this, but it looks amazing. And on top of it all, I don't know if some of you remember, I think back a few months ago, we had a quote from an electrician to install the arena lighting, which was somewhere in the neighborhood of $18,000. And with the addition to the agenda with the bills, I think we were looking somewhere around $2,300 for the electricians and somewhere around $1,000 for the lift rental. I wasn't real great at math, but I think we're somewhere cheaper than $18,000. We helped out as much as we could to try to make it as quick and as easy and as cheap as we possibly could do. Ricky and Lori, our electricians, done a lot of work. I had them under a bit of a time frame that we wanted to get the arena up and running. Most days I was probably in their way, but they were very, very polite and never actually said anything to me. So I'd like to thank them for all their hard work, and as well as Park Place Carpentry for the use of the lift. I know there was a few days there he called. I'm sure he needed it to do something, but when I told him we were still using it, he gladly said, keep it. So the last thing on my list, I see this afternoon that St. Stephen had a big announcement that they got $1 million for the waterfront development from 3 levels of government. It'd be great to get a little bit of that money coming this way. Any questions?
I have a question. You mentioned there about the 40-page report, so we need to do some upgrading in order to pass. So is it mainly training, or is there anything structural we have to address as well?
It doesn't get into structural. It's the biggest thing for us is the training, the lifeguards.
Okay.
The rest of it we can duct tape and Band-Aid like we have from the years past, but the biggest thing is the lifeguard training.
The EpiPens that were at the Anchorage and there, the places that aren't going to be running, are they going to be distributed somewhere else, or?
Anywhere, see, as far as my understanding is the Anchorage is looking at running, the Boys and Girls Club is looking at running a program all winter at the Anchorage.
That's right.
So we will keep them anywhere that may not have heat. We will bring them in, and in the next little bit, I hope to put out a public flyer or some type of announcement of the program, encouraging other local businesses as well as residents. Anyone who wants to jump on board with this program. I mean, just because we have these pens out there doesn't mean we don't need more. So anyone that wants to jump on board will certainly help them get that started. But if we had some pens that may not be in use, that some, like at the pool, for example, that's been shut off, we may have a couple of pens that to give out.
Any other questions for Chris?
What's the life of an EpiPen?
The ones I picked up today that are on the Grand Manan 5 expire November 2018. It all depends on what batch you get and when you get them. It ranges anywhere from 12 to 18 months. So luckily, all the batch that we got, I got 14 pens, 7 adult and 7 junior. And luckily, they all, the expiry date on them will get us through next summer, like for the pool and the Anchorage and ones like that.
Should you replace those?
To replace them, it's about $100 a pen. Oh, I should add to my report, I almost forgot. The whole program was funded by Rotary. We had a $2,000 donation from the local Rotary chapter, which covered the cost of the cabinets, and Rotary International matched that $2,000 for a total of $4,000. So we thank Rotary for that. Kind of it as a gesture of gratitude, I had Mick Deckles do up some small decals we've placed on the front of the cabinets that says sponsored by the Grand Manan Rotary, and a small logo of the village as well.
Okay, thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
Next item on our agenda is approval to pay the following invoices from the General Operating Fund. Excuse me. Approach Navigation System Procedural Maintenance, $3,450. Island Home Hardware August Statement, $2,670. Reiki, $2,346.54. Fitworks, new treadmill, $4,105.50. Park Place Carpentry Scissor Lift Rental for the arena, $1,840.
I've moved.
Mr. Mayor, I move the approval of those invoices.
We heard the motion by Councillor Cheney. Do we have a seconder?
I'll second.
Councillor Morse, seconded by Councillor Morse. Question? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. There is no such thing as closed session, which is unusual. Our next regular council meeting is Monday, October the 17th, 2017, at the Grand Manan Community Center at 7:30. I'd like to thank you people for coming out, and I'd like to thank the Boys and Girls Club's workers for providing us the camera work for this. So,
Move to adjourn?
you heard the motion by Councillor Morse. Do we have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Sturgeon. We are dismissed.